There's only one reason why most agencies, coaches, consultants never actually scale past 50K a month. Okay, even if they're running ads and spending $10,000 a month on ads, and I see it time and time again. I've worked with over 500 agency owners, coaches, consultants in the last few years. I've spent millions and millions on ads, and I promise you, this is the number one bottleneck, the number one reason people never scale past 50K a month. Now that is all about lead quality. Okay, and it's not what you think. Okay, most agency owners will start relying on referrals, word of mouth, cold outbound, cold emails, low level stuff, right? They're not risking much money. They're not even risking anything. They're just happy go lucky, and they might get to 30K a month and they're happy, right? They're making some money, but they know they can always do more. So what they end up doing is they start running ads. Okay. So they start spending a few $1,000s a month on ads. And then what happens is they waste a lot of money. And the reason is because they blame lead quality. Okay. Now, when I say lead quality, I don't mean they're right. I mean they're wrong. It's never about the leads. It's always about the person. Okay. The reason I know this is very, very simple. I have had the same offer running on my ads for nearly 3 years. Okay, so in August 2023, I launched an offer. That offer is still my main producing offer that brings me in 80% of my clients every single day. Okay. Now, what's really, really important is that over that horizon, my closers have changed. So I've had probably 3 to 4, maybe even 5 different closers. I've had 4 to 5 different appointment setters. I've had 4 to 5 different price points. I've had 4 to 5 different actual service delivery mechanisms that I've sold. So everything's changed, but the one thing that stayed consistent is the quality of the leads. Now, I'm not saying that lead quality should be 100%. What I'm saying is the opposite. It's not about the leads. It's about the cost to acquire a client. Okay. So if you spend $50 an appointment on your ads and then you book 10 appointments, the goal is not to have 10 appointments show up and buy your thing. The goal is to have one of those people show up and buy your thing. So if 9 of those 10 show up and they're rude, they're the wrong client, they're disrespectful, they don't have money, they're throwing every single objection under the sun at you, but then the 10th person walks through the door and then they one call close, you now have a system that is literally spending $500 and giving you a client. Now, for most people, that's $5,000 or more. Okay. Even if it was $2,000, that's still a 4x return. So what most people are doing is they're focusing on the wrong metric. They focus on lead quality. They say, my leads should be better. I need to change my ads. I need to change my funnel. But then they go and tweak and they change, and then their costs double. So now they're spending $100 per call, but the quality is barely different. Maybe now 2 out of the 10 are good quality, but they're overspending massively. And even if they do get a close out of the 10, they're now spending twice as much. Okay. So I promise you, if you obsess over lead quality and adding 100 different questions in your funnel, having a survey, having friction, especially in the beginning, you're optimizing for the wrong thing. All your focus should be on, I have an offer, I have a service that people need help with, right? They have a problem that I can solve. So my only goal right now is to spend as little as possible on my ads and to get as many clients as possible. Now, that's not going to look pretty. That's not going to be you spend $100 on an appointment, everyone shows up ready to buy. Okay, and that's the wrong expectation. The expectation is you're going to have to hear a lot of no's before you hear a yes. Okay, and it happens all the time. And the ones that scale past 50K a month are the ones that understand this. They understand that it's a system. You have to have the ad dialed in. You have to have the funnel that is working and producing. You have to have a sales process that is actually turning the qualified leads into clients. Now, again, if I look at my own ads, we'll get 10 appointments booked a day, right? Now, we know we're looking for the 3 out of those 10 that are actually going to show up and are interested. And the way that would break down is we'll get 10 appointments booked, spend $500 a day. 6 of those or 7 of those people will show up. And then 3 to 4 of those people will be qualified. Then 1 of those people hopefully buys, right? Now, obviously, it doesn't always work that way. And some days we don't get a client, but then other days we'll get 4 clients in a day. But over a long horizon and over 3 years of running ads and spending hundreds and hundreds of thousands at a 10x return over the lifetime of my offer, I can categorically say that it's never the leads, it's always the sales. And if you do blame the leads, you've already lost. Okay. And again, if you then look at how that transcribes into fulfillment, the goal is not to convince, the goal is not to push, the goal is to help. So when these leads come into your sales call from the ad, your only objective is, can I help this person and do they want to be helped? If the answer is yes, then you have a great opportunity of getting a client. If the answer is no, they don't want my help and they're rude and they're aggressive and they don't want to listen, they don't want to answer questions, it doesn't matter how good you are at sales. Even if you manage to convince them to buy, they're not going to stay. They're not going to be a great client. They're not going to pay you in full. They're going to be an absolute nightmare, and they're going to drag your costs further down or further up because of how much time and attention they're taking from you. So you have to be very, very careful as a business owner in the agency online high ticket space, because there's a very different outlook from the sales to the funnel to the ad. And what's really important is you focus on cost per acquisition and you get really comfortable with that number. Okay. So if your thing is $5,000, you should think of the number that makes sense for you. Now, what I would say is you should aim for about a 2 to 3x cash collected ROI. So you should be aiming to get an instant 2 to 3x return on your ad spend day one. This does not include recurring revenue. So for example, if you're selling something for $3,000 up front, and that does not include the recurring revenue from that client, your objective should be to spend $1,000 to get a client. And if you're not happy to spend $1,000 to get someone to pay you $3,000, then you shouldn't be scaling a business. Okay, it's really, really important, because what that does is you spend $1,000, you get paid $3,000, you can now afford to go and get 2 more clients, right? Which literally is just constantly scaling mechanism, a scaling vending machine that you now have at your disposal. The good news is you can increase your prices and you can get better sales, you can create better funnels, and you can create better ads. But in the very beginning of getting into using paid ads and scaling properly, your focus should only be on profitably getting a client in the door and then repeating that process and improving week after week. Okay. Again, most people will go and spend $1,000 on ads in a month. They won't get any amazing clients and they'll say ads don't work for them. But when you actually look deeper into the metrics, they spent $1,000, got 10 to 20 appointments on the calendar. They had 5 to 10 people show up, and they had 2 to 3 really good conversations. But because they weren't able to actually identify the true objection on the sales call, they lost the deal. And then they blamed everything else apart from themselves. When actually, if they just were honest and were able to review their process and actually identify what the true bottleneck was without that funnel, they would have actually been able to get one of those clients, and they would have been at a 3x return or more on day one cash collected, and then would have reinvested that into month 2, and then got 2 clients, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5. But people get so emotional, and that's the number one reason why people do not scale past 50K a month, because they like to blame everything else that isn't actually in their control, right? You can't blame the lead quality because you don't control the leads. What you can only blame is yourself. Take full responsibility for the whole equation and you will win. And that includes being comfortable with saying you are really bad at sales, or you have a really bad funnel and you need to make better changes to the funnel. But never blame the thing that you actually can't control. And I always see people blaming that stuff. So that's why I wanted to create this video, because if you are an agency owner, coach, or consultant, what I would do differently is be comfortable with losing money in the beginning, because you know what you're going towards. You know that you want to make $100K a month, and your vision is to spend $10,000, $20,000, make $100K a month at 50% margins and live a good life. But people never get there because they get in their own way. And of course, it's emotional. You know, I've been running the same offer for 3 years. There's weeks where I think I might have to call it a day on this offer, but I give it another week and I go through the motions and I lose a little bit more money, and then it comes back around and we have an amazing week the next time. So it's really important. If you're an agency owner, coach, or consultant, you're below 50K a month right now, or maybe you're above 50K a month, but you haven't really dialed in paid ads. There's so much to this game. You have the ad, you have the offer, you have the funnel, you have the sales process, you have all of these moving pieces. You have to really just understand what your goal is. You have to understand how much you're willing to give to get. And you cannot be emotional. You have to look at things purely based on the data, and you have to take full responsibility. And if you can do that, you will scale. But if you can't and you get emotional and you say, oh my God, life is unfair, ads are unfair, it doesn't work for me, whatever, then sorry to hear that. But if you're an agency owner, coach, consultant, you can check out a link down below, see how I can help you actually scale and just do it all for you. We'll build the offer, we'll build the ads, we'll build the funnel, the automations, the AI. We'll even hire your commission-only sales reps, manage and train them for you on a pay-per-close basis, and we'll guarantee that it will work. There's a link down below. Have a look, book a call, see if we can help. No pressure whatsoever. And I will see you guys in the next one.